afternoon, gamers, and welcome back. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about on that game place today, and to say I was excited about it would be telling the truth. I'm pretty stoked. There's 10 stories to get to today. We won't be bowed by anything other than perhaps some national emergency. In other words, we're going to go through every single one of these stories and maybe some of them together. I think it's going to be a good time. But let's say hi to those of you who are in the house. We got so much coming up. We got the lovely Jill here. She's going to wrench for us today. Ninja Pat is here. Ready Player One indeed. Of course, Tom is in the house. Love it. And I love that you guys are all here early. We got low spec Linux laptop out there, of course, and a few other folks rolling in the door. Like, let's see. Still no Rumble channel. We're working on it, my friend. We're working on it. We've got Morgan King out there. Good to see you. We are going to talk, obviously, some Assassin's Creed today because the game did come out. I play it. You've watched me play it. I played it on this channel. I've embarrassed myself. I've embarrassed you. I am an embarrassment. Here's the problem that I have with the game, and we'll get into my review later on. But I feel like it doesn't play right. It doesn't play like an Assassin's Creed game, and I've been very disappointed in gameplay. I'm disappointed in music selection. I'm disappointed in character design. Visually, everything outside of the characters, the setting, the story, and all of that, in control system and combat system, is good. But there's there's a lot of downsides in the game. And when I say good, I mean not overwhelmingly good. I mean the design of the environments is good. The attention to some details is good. You still are going to find some rampant, weird, strange things that are there that shouldn't be. But as always, folks, we will endeavor to continue to show you what's going on. We got Scott Summers here. We got John the Beagle Dad in the house. Good to see you, my friend. And of course, native Hawaiian 808, my friend. 808 forever. Ohana. Aloha and mahalo for being here, my friend. Let's see who else is around. We got more folks rolling in here. We got the elemental hero, the Shadow Link Dragon Wolf King. That is a lot. That is a very long name and very descriptive. Pretty awesome, to be fair. Juliet is here. Good to see you, dear. Thanks for being here. Radio Drago. And of course, Humor and Waffles. What's up, buddy? I hope you're doing well. It's been a long time. I think I said hi to Captain Phantom Nerd, but I'll do it again. He's been everywhere today. And hopefully, you guys got a chance to check out the 3 videos I dropped in the last couple days. And I got a chance to see the Pro video I did today with Pro and Michelle from Force of Light Entertainment. Good times. We've got a German monk in the house. Good to see you. The first time I've made it on time for the live stream. Well, I'm glad you're here. And we got a little super duper chat from Hammeroid Hertz saying, "Good morning, Mr. CC. I'll be a better person today. You are always a good person, my friend, and I appreciate you being here, along with just the nicest mod, just a super nice D Bud Martin. Yeah, he's out there. Yeah, my brain's almost mush. I'm actually gonna have to play this game again this evening." Because I was going to try to play last night, but then I remembered I had a member stream for all the people with comics and myself and our watch party. So, but we've got to get to these stories. So enough about me and saying hi to all y'all. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the $2 and the super duper bucks that we absolutely use for our quarters and our pizza and everything else from Hammeroid Hertz. We got a lot going on. We got a lot going on. So from all of you around the world, I say thanks, because I know many of you are in other places. And I think it's awesome that we can hang out together. But we've got to get started. We got to get going, and we got to get to this first story. This one, I look, there are certain people that I've worked with in this space for a long time, and there are people I'm proud of because they've been able to break and reach out and give people stories that I think are incredibly important. And one of the great things about working with those people, and then eventually working with the new powerhouse in independent media that Park Place, is that I get a chance to see these stories in advance. We talk about them. Sometimes I send stories to other people so that they can cover them, and we get some really cool coverage. A lot of that's happening in the background when it comes to everything that we cover: pop culture, all the different aspects of entertainment, gaming, et cetera, et cetera. We're diving a little bit more into culture and opinion pieces, so you'll be seeing more and more of those. But when it comes to this story, this I'm especially proud of because I'm proud of the people who did the research to get here. You see, Sweet Baby Inc. connected devs appear to approve of to approve taxpayer-funded grants for themselves in government game finding. This is an expose that was put together by some people that I admire and think quite highly of. An investigation by our friends over at the Gothic Therapy channel, which I should suggest you check out. They do great work over there. Master of the TDS and Writing Raven. They're doing just amazing work when it comes to uncovering these things, finding out what these bots are doing, uh, pulling every thread when it came to Sweet Baby Inc. and finding that a closed circle of game development elites in France is funneling millions in taxpayer fueled government game funding to studios they themselves operate or are closely affiliated with. Yes, corruption. Can you believe it? In gaming, no less. Can you believe it? Of course you can. And of course, many of these governments are doing it in an effort to create socialism, pockets of socialism, and all these other political uh, no things that are very, very anti liberty and freedom. But this is the video in question from our good friends over there. They've been following Wings and SBI and everything that led to where they are now. So this is the video right here. Sacre bleu. And yeah, it's not the best discovery in the world. And I will say Master really nailed it on the SBI face. That is so great. But the latest expose builds on the channel's previous reports into Wings Interactive, the indie game fund tied to Landfall Games and Sweet Baby Inc., but it dramatically widens the scope of the alleged influence and self-dealing within the European gaming industry. It is a real crazy situation indeed. And I'll just say it this way. I am not surprised, and I don't think you will be either. But the pattern does begin with Wings, and those cracks, again, were revealed by Gothic Therapy themselves, showing them to be a front for Landfall Games, despite public claims of independence. The fund, which promoted itself as a champion of diverse developers, shared staff, office space, and funding ties with the very studio it was supposed to be separate from. Gothic Therapy also highlighted connections to Sweet Baby Inc., which is, well, the Campbell operated disaster house that almost guarantees a deflated and destructive game that will, well, destroy the studios that are making them because the money will dry up. But the revelations led Wings. Revelations led to Wings Interactive scrubbing their entire online presence and deleting their X account, removing board member listings because you don't want to be found out, do you? And erasing past game projects from its website. But according to Master of the TDS, that wasn't the end of the story, just the beginning. Wings may have disappeared, but the money trail didn't. Of course not. The French government, or a French government-backed gaming grant network, of course, wild. So the deeper they dug, the more troubling the pattern became. So France's Centre National du Cinéma et de l'Image Animée, I don't know if I said any of those words right, but I tried, a government agency that funds film, a government agency that funds film, they should find them, funds film, animation, and video games with millions of euros annually. Sorry, I'm trying to speak multiple languages here. Decisions about how this government game funding is distributed are heavily influenced by the Syndicat National des Jeux Vidéo. I don't know what that means, but it's an industry board composed of top game developers and executives. So, of course, it's a self-dealing circle of, well, funding, I'm going to say. So basically, the SNJV operates as kind of a gatekeeper for funding for games, and many of its board members have received CNC grants either directly or through the studios they oversee. So they're funding themselves and controlling how that money is spent. Uh, Gothic Therapy has tracked more than 3.8 million euro in public funds flowing to companies connected to SNJV board members, many while they were actively serving on the board that helps decide who gets government game funding. Sorry, guys. Apparently, there's less oxygen in the room today. But despite the fact, and because of this article, um, this goes down a very deep rabbit hole. You've got names, grants, overlapping roles, obviously double dealing to themselves, and all of these different names like Audrey LaPrince, which is Wings Interactive game backers, received 10 grants, 5 while serving on the board, including for Women in Games France and her own projects. This Marine La Matière Freeland is Piece of Cake Studios. They received 4 grants, 3 during board tenure. Do you see the pattern here? And this is wonderfully broken down by Gothic Therapy. I think it's really important to chase all this down ourselves and get to the bottom of it. A quick way to do that is to check out Master of the TDS at Gothic Therapy and this particular video. So only 2 of the entire board were confirmed not to have received grants during their tenure. And Gothic Therapy concludes that the frequency of overlap between the board membership and the grant approval is obviously no coincidence. Of course, this is Audrey LaPrince, the founder of Wings Interactive. And there you are. Of course, they're pushing multiple agendas at Wings. The Wings connection is a big issue. Gothic Therapy could not find direct CNC payments to Wings Interactive. They discovered that at least one Wings funded studio, the Moon Pirates, received 90,000 euros in CNC money for their Don't Forget Me game. The studio had previously been listed on Wings. It's now erased from their website. So they're trying to cover up all their misdeeds. And of course, they're all tied to this crazy ideology that we're fighting right now: socially fair and just gaming community. Yeah, which means you are social justice warriors bent on destroying Western civilization and gatekeeping it for a tiny little group of beings. That's a big problem. So a broader question, is this happening elsewhere? Of course it is. It's happening here in the States. We know for a fact. I can almost assure you that if you do enough digging into the USAID fraud, you'll likely find gaming in there as well. Any way that you can go about circumventing any kind of exposure, observation, and study is going to be through NGOs that are funding games and gaming grants. So this might be a worthwhile effort into checking this out. And as we dive further in, I'm going to bring in a man who needs no introduction and does high quality game research himself. It's WDW Pro. Hey, sir.
Hello there. I had to hop in. This one is so spicy. I could not believe this. And what a fun thing that this is being brought to the internet's knowledge now through that game place and culture. You're doing a phenomenal job. Who could have ever seen it coming? The Sweet Baby and their Sweet Baby sycophants apparently have connections directly to the Frenchies. Oh, Macron, say not so.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that Gothic Therapy, because Master of the TDS and Writing Raven are very thorough, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep exposing these little crazy commies trying to destroy the gaming world. They've been on Campbell's trail since the beginning. Wings was a recent discovery in the last 6 months, and they keep pressing ever forward. So I can't help but tout their video that they dropped today, which will be even more in depth and in greater detail, and their assertions as to what is happening additionally outside of this article.
Well, tell me what you think about this culture as you go through it. I don't mean to slow you down, but this looks to me like it's USAID, except with the French label on it this time.
Yep.
I'm beginning to think that the Western world, through our corrupt bureaucrats and soft elected governments, that they've been funding the destruction of the West through gaming, through entertainment, etc., through journalism, right? Propping up the journalists, the drive-bys. It looks to me like this is not just a U.S. government corruption thing. It goes far beyond. And who could have ever thought that Sweet Baby would be connected to international governments in this kind of a way? This is corruption at an extreme level, and it's no wonder that places like Sweet Baby, and by the way, we've had issues with BGG before, right?
Oh yeah.
It's no wonder that they're so quick to say, "We'll sue you."
Yeah,
they've got authoritarian funds behind them to help do it.
well, exactly. And what's the thing that corruption fears most? Illumination.
Sunlight.
Yeah, illumination. And that's the thing is like, look, anybody who feels like there's something wrong happening can do the research and well, present it to the rest of the world. And again, kudos to my friends at Gothic Therapy. But in this particular endeavor, they fall short of accusing anyone of outright fraud, but they argue that conflict of interest is systemic. Well, yeah, because they're self-dealing. They're funding their own projects using government funds. And it, like I said, Pro, you just brought it up. I think that there's a decent chance that USAID was doing the same thing in the gaming industry right along with it, which would present a conversation around the idea that this was it was organized to the point of almost collusion at this point.
What this means, culture, is that even a part of the USAID stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to find out as time goes on, and we assume that liberty is going to revivify across Europe at some point.
Yeah.
As this goes on, as they have their own Trumpian revelations, we're going to get revelations, I believe, that places like the UK, France, Germany, and beyond were doing the same sorts of things on a smaller scale as to what the Biden administration was up to in terms of propping up corruption and false narratives and companies that were intended forever to disseminate propaganda to consumers.
Indeed. And that's the thing is, I think that, well, as you're already seeing additional corruption in places like France, they're about to imprison one of the competitors for the presidency in France. So you don't think there's shenanigans globally. You don't think there's a challenge to liberty.
Wait a minute. Are you talking about France, or are you talking about the United States 8 months ago?
Well, I'm the same thing, and that's why it doesn't it feel like there's ghosts that are appearing in other places that, for some reason, remind us of what we were battling with.
It feels like in the vast sea, the vast history of the human race, that for a brief and vulnerable time, humans turned to the idea of true republic, of true ability, liberty, rights, personal freedoms, etc. And that's not the natural way of existing so long as the corrupt and the authoritarians and the totalitarians and the dictators can get a hold of anything. And it feels as if the West was on the precipice, and had the United States gone over the cliff, Europe would have been right there with them. Right now, Europe is still there, and it remains to be seen whether or not Europe will hop in. But the idea that our gaming industry was infiltrated and corrupted by not just USAID and what the far lefties were doing with, what was the game? Dustborn, right?
Yeah.
Finding out now it's the UN, it's France, it's Germany, it's UK, it's all of these.
It's Norway.
Oh, poor Norway too. And come on, Norway, you're the land of Vikings. Get a hold of yourselves. It's embarrassing when the Vikings and the Scots have given up on personal freedom. Listen though, this whole thing, the idea that you're going to pay millions and millions of dollars to recent graduates, a bunch of ninnies who took gender theory in college, and let them run amok and destroy the gaming industry. The good news here is consumers wouldn't buy it, no matter what they did. And this is what happened at the box office too, right? So the gaming industry, 14 times the size of the box office industry. All right, fine. But in both of these sectors of entertainment, nobody, relatively, was interested in the propagandistic dissemination of far left values. And by the way, if you tried it with the far right, it'd be the same thing. You get a rejection. People want the sensible center. They want the mainstream middle. Gamers, moviegoers, same thing. They were unable to sway people. Yes, they can do things with Spider-Man games but it's all gently moving in that direction, and we'll call it out. But the hardcore stuff like Dustborn and like Concord and what they did with Overwatch, right, where they force kids and families to automatically have in their possession these flags that represent various preferences, we'll say, right? All of this stuff, what Microsoft did with Halo, utterly rejected like Snow White. And so let these sacre bleu governments do what they want to do. It doesn't matter. People call it doo-doo, and they say, I will take none of that, please.
Indeed. And you know, I like I said, shout out again to Gothic Therapy for uncovering this. I would encourage each and every one of you to take an opportunity to read this article. Marvin did a great job on it in coordination with Master of the TDS and Writing Raven. I would say we're blessed, all the more blessed for having them in our circles. But
yeah, I want to go back to culture. I want to go back to when we looted monsters at the end of dungeons. I want to go back to finding out how many coins are in the question block, the question mark blocks. I want to find out where it is you go to get the emeralds. Like, that's what I want to do in gaming. I don't want this slop, this ideological, partisan, political slop, whether it comes from Europe or China or whether it comes from USAID. I don't want it in my gaming. I want my fun back. Give me the fun back, or I'm taking my funds back.
Right. Well, I hope we can do both, and in a larger endeavor, our tax money back, because I don't want to be paying for these things. The government should not be involved in gaming.
Now, culture, I did my best there, coming in as your sidekick.
I appreciate that.
You're the leader of the party here. Okay,
I am.
Party lead.
I'm going to lead you over to a super chat that came in from T Neil 89 for $5 in quarters. See, because we take payment in quarters here. It's just easier to put them in the game machines. So
I like it. And look at that arcade you've got behind you. Very impressive.
I know. Look, that gameplay studios are amazing, and they could get amazinger with all this kind of support. But what a shame, he says. I was really looking forward to playing another self-insert Mary Sue Burmensch, who isn't afraid of everything. Oh well, there's going to be plenty of those. In fact, I have a feeling that the next story we're going to hop onto is going to feature one of those.
I'm so happy, culture.
Yeah,
what are you happy because Tennille, when he's on my channel,
yeah,
I see Tennille the 10th every time,
and he's the 10th over here too, all the time.
Well, I was worried.
He's permanently
because I didn't know if that translated to these other places, but it does.
Yeah, it does.
He's everywhere with the 10th super chat. Hey, culture, though, when I came in, I attempted to come in hot. I don't know if you know this. By the way, almost 60 people out there viewing. Happy to have everybody out there. I came in hot. And the reason is culture, because people have been telling me that they look forward to Derek Anderson and Mike Canool, Mexican Iron Man, rants. And there's some debate that Tom over at Midnight's Edge might even be the best ranter. And I am never looked upon, sir, as someone who can deliver a good rant. And so I'm practicing. I'm trying to hone my skills.
I think your drop in and the subject that we were covering lent itself to you having a very good rant, sir.
All right, I'll be right back, culture. Got a call coming in. I'll be right back. Give me 2 minutes.
Do what you need to do. And then he's gone. But we're back, and we've got more to get to. We've got a studio that I think a lot of you are familiar with, that I think a lot of you have always thought would be on the right side of the gaming industry. And they have been for a long time, except for recently. They've actually hired some of these SBI studio-related failures in to help with their upcoming new game. And there's one saving grace, despite the fact that narratively it's going to be terrible, and probably art design is going to be terrible. And so far the character models are terrible, but we'll take a quick look at the story itself coming out of CD Projekt Red, because as you all know, they've got a new game that they've got to get into the marketplace, and there's going to be a dearth of games in the very near future. A lot of mid-level studios are releasing things. You have a lot of indies that are really working hard on what they're doing. But despite the industry push for a live service games, because that's how they're going to make money on you continually and have net bookings, quarterly net bookings, which is the way they calculate things. Now, CD Projekt Red CEO says studio is focused on cutting edge single player games like Witcher and Cyberpunk. So it doesn't sound like they're going to bend to the pressure. And it's right at a time when a lot of studios are considering getting out of the live game experience because players don't like it so much. This is a story from Spencer Baculi over at Bounding Into Comics. And it's basically, spot on with what people want. While the overall video game industry continues to lose itself in pursuit of chasing the live service games, CD Projekt Red CEO Michael Nowakowski has assured players that The Witcher and Cyberpunk 2077 development house remains dedicated to the cutting edge single player experiences. And the reason they say it that way is because I think they have a spin-off of Cyberpunk that's coming out of a wholly other studio that they're working with. Regardless, Nowakowski, who serves as is the current CEO in a joint role with Adam Badowskim, provided his insight into the company's forward-looking plans while addressing investors as part of the overall CD Projekt Group's 2024 annual management board report, meaning it's their annual and end-of-year corporate report. Beginning with the positive look back at how the past year has been filled with a number of notable successes for the company, that is, despite their lack of new releases, including Cyberpunk 2077 taking home Best Evolving Game Award. Well, yeah, it started off badly. It came back and did a good job. And of course, The Witcher 4 officially entering full production, which they're doing right now. A brief recap of development plans for both Witcher 4 and the greater Cyberpunk franchise. The CEO then took a brief beat to make it clear that regardless of industry trends, his team had no interest in abandoning single-player game development. And I'm glad for that because that's where they really stand out. As you see, they may be actually recognizing what makes them successful. And if that's the case, maybe they'll turn their back on a lot of these ridiculous narratives that are being pushed forward in games. Maybe they won't let a travesty happen to Mr. Pondsmith's work. We'll see. But anyway, they are going to make a new Witcher trilogy. The first installment is Witcher 4, codenamed Polaris. Project Orion, the second game in the Cyberpunk universe, and Project Sirius, a game for multiplayer features set in the Witcher universe. And then obviously the Witcher remake, retelling the first part of The Witcher, which I think a lot of people would like to play with some modern game tech. So it sounds like they have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be good at. They also are going to be working with Netflix again, which includes more shows like the Edge Runners. So this is definitely going to show up. Edge Runners is still one of the best shows I've ever seen on Netflix, and that's saying something. I feel like that was where I really felt reconnected to Cyberpunk. I don't know about you guys, but these are the development teams engaged in ongoing projects and on and on and on. All I know is the most satisfying news here is that they're not going to engage in live service gaming. They're not going to try to get into a Fortnite hub or a Marvel Rivals hub or something like that. They're not going to try to compete with, one of these multiplayer war game type things. That might be a good thing. There are a handful of studios that are just kind of existing still because of those types of games, but they walked away from better first person or third person even shooters and things like that, single player events that people enjoy. We're going to have to see what the effects of GTA 6 are, but I'm afraid it's going to be too heavily reliant on the multiplayer experience with an online piece. So there's that. But I thought we'd get to this story and work through it. Spencer did a good job in writing it. Let's see what you guys think out there in the chat. Let's see. Let's see. You guys aren't really so up on this one. Tom's out there promoting it. I understand. It's not super. Oh, you're stuck? Why are you stuck?
I don't have powers in this place. You took them away.
I didn't do it, but I'm glad you're back. I'm
Culture,
glad you're
I
back.
was, but I was listening closely
Yeah.
as I went and dealt with a project that's happening here at the studio in
Ooh.
somewhere sunny USA.
Ooh.
Culture, it was a little bit muffled, but I think I got the gist of it. And I have to say that I too am excited about Cybertruck 77. Very excited. I don't know.
Cyberpunk. No, just ultimately, again, from the story itself, from something Spencer wrote over there at Bounding, that CD Projekt Red isn't going to rely so much on a push for live service. They're going to stick with single player focused games, which aren't going to demand that you spend all your nickels and pennies, every month to increase their net bookings. So I thought that was good.
You mean they're not going to use loot boxes to loot my wallet?
No, they're not. No, they're just going to do DLC that you can pay for to have a better and longer game experience. So that makes sense, I think, anyway. But
I see that Jay is in the chat.
hey, what's up, Jay? Good to see Jay. Our favorite letter, J.
That's right.
The show right now could be brought to us by the letter J.
I don't have that clip, but I know it by heart. The letter of the day is J.
Yay!
Oh, I love J. Oh, yeah. That's how it goes.
That's great. D Neil 89 says another 5 in quarters because we need that. We're getting close to being able to play like Street Fighter all day long, Pro. It's good news.
I've got Jonas in my ear. He's telling me I screwed that up because Cookie Monster just says me, never says I. So it should be me love that number. Oh yeah, or letter. Boy, I'm all kinds of wrong this time.
Hey, I'm all kinds of wrong all the time. And by the way, I like saying number instead of letter because the incongruency trips up the audience. I think it's fun. But T Neil 89 says phonetically it's Mary Subermensch. Get it?
I get it. I get it.
I missed it. I didn't get it when I read it the first time. And doesn't afraid of anything is an old meme. It's true. She doesn't afraid of anything. Yeah, true story. I'm an old memer, so that makes sense. But I do appreciate Mr. 10th being here at every stream, and I extra much appreciate Jay for 10 in quarters. That's a whole roll of quarters, Pro. You know what you can do with a whole roll of quarters?
You can play The Simpsons arcade for 2 hours straight and not worry about a thing.
That's right. True story. Yeah, for that $10, I think this will be a blessing in surprise. Yeah. Once video games become an industry, it expanded too fast, but leadership failed to keep projects in the scope. That's true. The collapse will reset everything. It will. And look, if you follow, I follow other gaming news channels. I know that's hard to believe, but the channel Bellier News has been talking about the impending collapse of video games. But I want to feel like I'm one of the first people to say this was coming, and we are actually seeing an acceleration of studios closing. This year will be even more than last year. We're already on a record pace of studios closing. I have a feeling Ubisoft's going to have to shut down a couple more branches here in the very near future. I don't know. What do you think, Pro? You think we're on the cusp of complete gaming collapse?
I think we're on the edge of collapse for the studios, many of them. But I also think we're at the dawn of a renaissance when it comes to independent creators having the ability to create anything they want. And so the most creative people out there who are successful with 5% inspiration, 95% perspiration, they're going to use the AI tools that are now arising onto the scene to create games that look like they were, at a cost of $500 million, and it'll be nowhere close. And the reason for that is because one of the most expensive parts of making a video game is coding. Programmers are very expensive because it's very few people who can program at the highest levels necessary. Well, AI can do that. And so once you unleash, with a staff of 10 or 15, the power of AI to code these things, and then also perhaps 3D modeling and all of that sort of thing. And there's a discussion of maybe we won't be doing 3D modeling much anymore. Perhaps it will be generative. Okay, so that's a new paradigm. But whatever the case might be, I think you're going to see a huge influx of creativity. And then the difficulty is going to be, how do you find the good stuff? Like if there's a sea of tremendous gaming, how do you find that which should be at the top of the Pareto principle, at the top of the curve? And so that will be the difficulty.
I think it'll all come back to what it's supposed to: storytelling. I think the storytelling in any game is where you always find success. So the better driven story, the better the game. For example, the reason why Grand Theft Auto 5 was the most popular of any of their games ever was because the story was great. You had three storylines in parallel being told in a combined arc where they had to work together and conquer individual situations and missions, and where you took advantage of one's proficiencies and then you would switch to the other to do what they were good at. And I think, in addition to those innovations and having three simultaneous protagonists, you also had an overall story that everybody understood. Why did these things need to happen? What were they going to do? How were they going to take out the corrupt, intelligence officials and some such? How were they going to resolve their differences? All of that had, a lot of depth to it. There was a lot of character development, and the world was expansive. I think those are always the big winners. And look, I think if a Hollywood property can be exploited as a game, they should. And I think if a gaming property can be exploited as a media, like television or film property, it should. And that's why I think you saw a natural success in the first season of Fallout over on Amazon, right? So, anyway.
Well, here's what I envision as a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
The possibility that I see is that you could have a platform that exists like X or YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of videos, it's games.
Yeah.
And I envision a world in which you could surf through the games, and because of the speed of programming using AI, which by the way comes with perils, no doubt, but it is where we're going, one way or the other. But you could select a game, and because of the speed that people can program, content creators could put out a new version of Candy Crush in very little time, because the fundamentals of that are so easy to do in terms of conceptualization. The programming is not all that difficult, and if you have AI that can generate animations, you can make amazing games like Flappy Bird and Pac-Man and all of that. And so I see a world where there's an arcade platform where you can scroll through. Now, the big stuff like what you're talking about, these expansive RPGs, these Skyrims, right?
Yeah,
that's always going to take a lot of work, because there's so much lore and so much human experience that has to be put in that. AI is still not, and it's not for a significant amount of time, going to be good at doing interlay storytelling from various perspectives and have that all come out and be very human. So those will still be in the purview of the AAA. I think that's where this is going to be. But the other thing that will separate it out is I think still having high speed multiplayer networking. That still is incredibly difficult because it requires infrastructural power. So that will still be in the purview. The Call of Duties will still be the AAAs.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm with you. I think generative AI they'll be able to create open worlds that are just expansive and infinite. So, and I think that you could just layer a game on that, and by procedural development, be able to create whole new worlds. I think, isn't that one of the goals of that space game that is still never been officially released?
Oh, who knows? It's too ambitious. Culture, listen. We got to boil this down. Culture, nobody's here, okay? Nobody's listening to us. This is a private conversation for me. I need to make a pitch to you. Now, I've worked in the gaming industry for a very long time, and I need to make a pitch.
Okay.
I've got an idea, and I think we could be good at this.
Okay.
You've seen Goat Simulator, right?
Yeah.
You've seen the Goose Game, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you seen the Banana Game?
I have not, but it sounds appealing. Culture, what if we do not Flappy Bird, and we're not copying? I don't want any insinuation that we're copying. What about Floppy Bird? And it's just a mentally dysfunctional waterfowl. I don't know. Canary, doesn't matter. But the goal is to flop it. Like, just let it, like it has broken wings or something, but it's just mentally deficient. but you
Yeah.
flop it through the pipes. Like it lands on the ground and like a fish out of water, it flops around, and then you hit a button and it how hard you hit the button flops it up through the pipes as they pass by. Nothing to do with Flappy Bird. Totally different. What do you think about it? Floppy Bird.
I think it's great, and I think we should kind of pattern it after Hey Hey in Moana. There you go. Yeah, either that or I guess we could call it Penguin.
You could. Floppy Bird.
We got a penguin in the chat, but anyway, I just
you get bonus points if you flop over a car.
Yeah.
There's a style button, and it lets you poop on the car windshield as you flop through the pipes.
Oh, that'd be
Gives you
great.
bonus points.
I love that idea.
And at the end of the game, if you can do that into a reporter's mouth, you get huge points.
Yeah,
10,000.
that sounds
The
good.
points don't matter, but it's like
Right, let's not tell anybody about this idea.
Okay.
And
Totally secret.
and YouTube. Have you seen YouTube's trying to get into weird game things? Have you seen that?
Well. Do we have something for them?
Yeah, I'm just saying it would be really fun.
Yeah.
Speaking of amazing fun, amazing neat. We got Mark Fields here for $2.25. Thank you, Mark. Always wishing everybody some positive vibes. Thank you so very much, Mark. Much appreciated. We really do appreciate it.
We're going to give him the cheat codes for Floppy Bird, just for such a nice thing to say.
Floppy Bird. Yes,
Yep.
exactly. All right, let's move on though, Pro. This is one we're not going to go into too much depth because I want to encourage people to go read the story since it's in the VIP section of that Park Place, which if you guys just go and watch the live shows over on WDW Pro, he gives away the service for free.
Give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away now.
There you go. There you go. But most importantly, I think this is an important story. You see, they're trying to rewrite history, Pro. I'm upset. CNN's blaming Gamergate for the state of the modern online world in wild historical rewrite propaganda hit piece against us.
Which really tells you just how poorly CNN must be doing. Because I'm here to tell you, of all the things happening in the world that CNN could cover, they're about 7 years late to want to talk about Pizzagate.
I don't think this was pizza, but
wait a minute. I thought you get to eat pizza when you play games.
No,
man,
you do, but that's not what Gamergate was. See, Pizzagate's a whole other thing that CNN neglected to cover in an honest way. But that was years ago as well. Let's just get into the fact that
talk about SodaGate. That's the new thing. CNN, that's what you need to be talking about. SodaGate.
You know what?
The influencers.
I'm not gonna promote anybody's soda, but what I am gonna promote is that Park Place.
You would promote Surge, and you know it. It was a glorious thing. It was 98% high fructose corn syrup and 2% liquid that cannot be identified.
Caffeine. Yeah, it was or I guess that was Jolt Cola back then.
I want Surge. Listen, when it's time for Pro to go, when I am facing the great beyond, when the angels come down and the relatives begin to beckon me, put the Surge in the IV. I want to go in there dancing, baby.
Well, in dancing you would be, because I'm sure your heart would explode. But CNN's actually they're actually rewriting history. They want you to believe, Pro, that the online movement from 2014 over video game urinalism is responsible for virtually every controversy of the last decade.
I see Pasta Gate is down in there. Look at that. They did include it. I wasn't so far away.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think I'm supposed to say it though on the YouTubes.
I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah. CNN
while the channel lasted, folks. Pro came in and broke the thing in one day. Darn it.
It's fine. It's fine. But CNN frames Gamergate not as a call for transparency in media, but as the spark for a supposedly ignited a digital wildfire engulfing everything from social platforms to politically correct movements. No, they were trying to push PC garbage forever. But let's be clear. Ooh, look out, Marvin. Marvin says this CNN article isn't about informing the public. It's about reshaping a narrative to paint a specific group as the origin for every cultural issue of the day, which isn't true. And it does so by burying key facts, erasing dissenting voices, and drawing outlandish connections.
Now, the chances that CNN knows what any of these words mean is like a 1% shot. The higher probability is that when CNN thinks of the word Gamergate, They believe it refers to Deep Throat playing Monopoly inside the Watergate Hotel. Like, they don't know what this is. They have no idea. It's just a word salad for them.
Well, what it tells me is that in a desperation move for a lot of these outlets, and I'm including CNN in that, they're starting to take in the so-called journalists that were kicked out of their gaming cushy jobs, that couldn't make it in regular journalism. But now they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, to get stories like this and talk about this infamous chick over at Kotaku, Jen Glennon, and take perspectives from uh, now infamous Zoe Quinn, and all the wild things that she did, and the improper relationship that she had with Nathan Grayson over at Kotaku, which really started the beginning of the end for digital outlets covering gaming. So I think that it's really important for everybody who does have a VIP membership to go over and read this article, much like we do with everybody else who has a what we call it, a wall, a paywall. It's really important for you to see this in its true context. But I just want to ask you for your perspective.
No. I want to ask you. Go back down to that woman,
Miss Jen Glennon.
I'm not trying to be rude.
Uh-huh.
Not. Why is it, though, that the behaviors and the, what should we say?
Style.
The style of everybody that Kotaku gives us, it's like it's like they're hiring outside of it's like they're hiring in Portland at a location where people wear orange vests or jumpsuits.
I just always figured it was either retired baristas or laundry mat managers.
It looks like the Portland Correctional Facilities Department is handing Kotaku resumes on a daily basis.
Yeah, but really the actual Gamergate itself, as
lovely.
I'm just going to push through.
Now you know how Jonas feels.
I do. The larger, but you're brilliant and funny and entertaining. So I'm grateful you're here, but I'm also grateful.
My wife disagrees.
Okay. Well, I'm grateful. I'm grateful you're here, but I'm also grateful that our good friend Marvin pushed through here and talked about the fact that literally this was driven by games urinalism from beginning to end to basically expose the fact that they were corruptible and corrupted, and it really broke down anybody believing anything they wrote, and the larger concerns about transparency in media. It started out in games media, but I think if anything, the fact that we want to know just how corrupt the news is not it's not folly, and it's not wild goose chase, because at every turn we're finding out more and more. But this article is brilliantly written. It's one of the VIP articles over on that Park Place right now. So I really do encourage you to check that out as a VIP. You may have gotten a free membership. You don't know. I mean, Pro gives them away like water now. It's like he's allergic to money.
We give them away like the Portland Correctional Facilities gives away employees to Kotaku. And by the way, we understand the drive-bys better than they know themselves. Folks, the question is Kotaku and are these CNN jabbersmackers, are they only there because they're getting funds from governments that we do not yet even know about? That's the question. And listen, there's plenty of doubt now after the French connections with Oh Sweet Baby, as well as USAID and Politico and the New York Times and all of that. It just, everything now involves skepticism as to where the money's coming from.
Yeah. And that's sad. I think it's really sad is that you can't, because journalistic integrity no longer exists, if it ever did. I do think it's very sad that everything that we look at now is followed by a giant question mark. So,
except when I watch Culture Casino.
I don't know about that.
That guy. In a world bereft of integrity. Culture, I know where to go to get my integrity. My integrity is found at Culture Casino.
I'm going to tell you, Tegrity Farms, also a good place. You gotta love.
I was worried you had been visiting that place. A few of your recent appearances on the Pro Show, people were worried. They said, "Hey, I think Culture may have found some integrity."
Well, I found some tired is what I found. But no, I will tell you this. I know some people that really appreciate integrity. Yeah,
I'll tell you
I
this:
don't need
for those
more
who didn't see it,
altering. Huh?
for those who didn't see it, the video that came out today at 12:30 p.m.
Oh, it was
Eastern time on
great.
Pro Channel, Culture, you and Michelle knocked it out of the park. It was a grand slam.
She is so brilliant. I mean, I don't think she knows. Well, she should. She's got like a doctorate or something now.
Yeah, you know, fancy schmancy PhD on her wall.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I mean, she's smart. She's very
Yep.
smart.
Yep.
Anyway, you should check out Forces of Light for sure. I mean, the girls over there are great. Plus, their watch parties are spectacular. But
I'm
anyway,
realizing now though, Culture, I realized I made a Simpsons arcade reference earlier in the show.
yeah, you did.
Behind us is a Turtles arcade.
Yes, it is.
I should have seen the context in which I exist. I should have referenced that for 10 hours you could insert those quarters to hear
TNMT. Yeah.
Who turned the lights out? Who turned the lights out? Who turned the lights out?
There you go.
Folks, if you've ever played it, drop in the sewer, you'll know, and it's a good way to stay away from Bebop.
True. You know what? It seems like some people are staying away from, and for a lot of different reasons. And in this case, because they're being forced by the Japanese government. Didn't know where I was going with that, and I was bobbing and weaving because for the next 4 stories, bro, maybe 5, we're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed.
Oh, Assassin's Creed. I was hoping for sashimi, but there we go.
Sashimi is a lovely fish with no rice, and that's my favorite thing at a sushi joint. But look, we gotta grab this article.
Whoa. Listen, you're talking to a sushi connoisseur. What's your favorite sashimi?
Sashimi? It depends on where I am in the country. I really do like salmon. A lot of people would prefer smoked salmon. I just like toro specifically.
Well, that's tuna, right?
Tuna belly.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the best part of the tuna. The freshest I've ever had was right out of the water in Hawaii. They had captured a tuna, and we had toro fresh from the fish.
Right there.
Yeah,
you just cut it from the fish and hand it to you.
Well, the master there, the sushi master, the man that's probably trained his whole life to do this, literally cut the fish in front of us. It was amazing.
Well, for me, it's albacore. I like white tuna. White tuna is what they call it, in the restaurants, but it's really albacore.
Well, I've eaten at the worst sushi place imaginable with Marvin the Movie Monster. I bet you didn't know.
Folks, this is the story of how they both got worms.
You know what?
I warned you when we went there. I said, don't get anything with tuna in it.
I had one bite of that and went, no.
It's literally like cat food, like tuna from a can. They were not using actual like tuna. Yeah,
it was not good.
So glad to be here with you, gentlemen. Yeah. I am still monitoring the slow drip Marvel announcements, so I might need to duck out if something big happens. But we are currently in the midst of them just naming every member of the Fox X-Men movies.
Well, thank goodness it's a movie just about that, and they're not adding Thunderbolts and Eternals and Shang-Chi and all that, because that would be bloated. So
have they added anyone from Eternals yet? Any Eternals? I haven't seen an Eternal yet.
You'll get the Eternals. You'll get Moon Knight. There, if somebody was in a Marvel movie for 2 seconds, they're going in this $1 billion production. You know it. Hey, guys, before you hit Assassin's Creed, though, and probably because you're going to talk about Assassin's Creed, and honestly, it's it's like Snow White, but even worse. I must bow out.
Oh, okay. That's fair. And thank you, Pro, for hanging out a bit today. I know everybody appreciates it. And I just want to say, keep doing a good job on your streams and giving away all the goods for free.
Listen, the folks out there, they make this come true. Every one of us on this panel, we get to have the dream job. When we go to work, we don't say, I have to go to work. We say, we get to go to work. And we go to work. For all of you out there, it's an honor. It's the pleasure of a lifetime. Marvin, one suggestion though, as you get on this very prestigious YouTube channel, brush your hair. Brush your hair next time, man.
I'll try.
Yeah, on the shoulders, not the head.
It just falls into place like this.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to send you some of my conditioner. Okay.
And Floppy Bird.
Floppy Bird. We got to play with Floppy Bird. That didn't sound right. All right. Anyway, thanks for being here, Pro, and have a great day, sir. We appreciate you.
Later, all, and happy whatever day it is. I can't even keep track anymore. Oh, Wednesday. It's Hump Day. We're doing that.
Wednesday. He's so funny. I love it. On that note, Marvin, it's great to see you. But we are about to get into the 4-story series of Yasuke.
Oh boy, the great Yasuke.
Yeah, and I'm going to give my game review only 6 hours in. So, and I'll do that as part of the series. But before we do that, we have to honor the people who sent us quarters. It's TNeil89 for $5 in quarters, saying, "What a shame! I was really looking forward to playing another self-insert." Oh wait, I already did this one.
Mary Supermensch is pretty good.
It was.
I like that.
Radial Drago for €5 says, "I think with the DEI dying and development times being what they are, we will still be seeing DEI in our games for at least 5 or 6 years, sadly." Oh, I think you're correct. I think you're 100% correct. And the one that I missed from TNeil89, I'm going to grab for $2 in quarters. Somewhere Sunny, USA is located in East Carolina. I don't know why it didn't highlight that one, but thank you for that, TNeil89. And Radio Drago, thank you for your $5 in euros. I think that's like $7.50 in quarters, dude. That's a lot. So I think I'm good with that.
That's a lot of quarters.
It is. T-Neil comes back with another $2 in quarters, saying, all they had to do was not be sanctimonious jerks. Yes, that's actually true when it comes to Gamergate stuff, which we just covered, dude. What a great job on that article you did.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, that was that. I had to rip that CNN article apart because it was ridiculous.
Oh, it was absolutely ridiculous. And yes, they are very much rewriting history. And they didn't want to admit that it was the lack of transparency and filthiness that was going on in the background of games urinalism. So, which is actually the real story.
Yeah, as we pointed out, Gamergate actually did lead to some reform in the games journalism industry. There were a lot of them did update their policies. I don't know how well they adhere to them, but they at least updated them.
They did. They did, and I was happy for that. And speaking of happy for that, as we say here, Mark Fields sent $2 to say positive vibes to you all. Thank you, Mark. And of course, our good friend Hemorrhoid Hurts saying Flappy raises eyebrow, restrains self for once. Oh, thank you, my friend. Yeah, I appreciate that. All right,
Culture. Have you talked about this French government funding?
Yes, we just did that, and I
so I have an update. I have an update
for
you.
Good. Hang on a moment. Hang on a moment. I already closed the story. Go ahead.
SNJV has deleted their members page.
Uh-oh.
That's big.
Uh-oh.
That's big. So Master of the TDS just tweeted out, SNGV has deleted their members page. You can now only see the board. All other members are gone. Looks like someone didn't want you to see who was connected. This is in line with the last time Master of the TDS exposed Wings. They deleted their social media immediately. So clearly he's onto something here, man.
No, they hate
Topic Therapy. It's a good channel to follow.
That's what I said, because our friends over there, Master of the TDS and Writing Raven, they're brilliant. Love them. And this story is big, so do check out their video because it has even more detail than what I went into and what Marvin is going to go into. And again, that article is up on That Park Place right now in the VIP section. So with all of that said, we've got to move forward, and this is very important. I want to say thank you to Jill for being wrenching out there, and it's good to see Tom out there with his wrench, so I appreciate you all being here. And Davina just arrived. Let's get into the 4-story segment of Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed Shadow. Or would you rather talk about Yasuke Simulator?
Let's get to Shadow.
Okay, let's jump in. Let's go.
Channing Tatum was just announced for Avengers Doomsday.
Yay.
Here we go.
Japanese shrine featured in Ghost of Tsushima announces full tourism ban after an unacceptable act of disrespect was committed by foreigners. Why the diet, whichever they say in Japan, you know why that was so important a week or so ago in their reaction to what was being done to temples in the game Assassin's Creed Shadows?
For this?
It was because they were worried about this.
Because a bunch of soulless gavones were going to go over there and trash their temples. Yeah.
And so it was only a matter of time until Japan's current currency struggles led to such an event. But sadly, a popular Japanese shrine known for its appearance in Ghost of Tsushima has announced that in light of the act of disrespect being committed against its property, all tourists, both domestic and foreign, will be prohibited from visiting the religious site for the foreseeable future.
Maybe it's like a Cartman Land situation where like that nobody was going, so they're just trying to say you can't come, so that everybody now wants to go.
Maybe, but I don't think they'll be able to do
so
that.
much to do at Shinto Shrine, but you can't come.
Maybe. But known in English as the Watazumi Shrine, the location in question is a dedicated Shinto shrine found in the city of Tsushima in Japan's Nagasaki prefecture. Just on the shores of Aso Bay, currently serving as the earthly home of Hori, the Shinto god of grain, and his wife,
Toyotama Hime.
Yeah, I was almost there. Anyway, the daughter of the sea god Watasume, who notably possesses the ability to turn into a dragon. In other words, they're trying to prevent damage to these landmarks, these holy places. And I'm with them. I understand. And it was only a matter of time until, we were going to see something terrible like this happen. But here's the announcement on Twitter, I believe, or Facebook. Excuse me.
It's very well written. I can see.
Yeah. Or is it Instaface? Is it Bookgram? I don't know. Anyway. So, as for the reason for this visitation ban, the caretakers explained that at approximately 4 p.m. on March 22nd, a highly serious and unacceptable act of disrespect was carried out by a foreign individual, though they unfortunately did not provide any details as to the specific nature of said act.
It gotta be somebody peed. I guarantee you somebody peed on it.
Yeah. And despite repeatedly consulting with the City Hall, the Tourism Association, and the Nagasaki Prefectural Police, no resolution has been reached. So they're just done. And you knew it was a matter of time. And this is why we read the story we did last week before this incident happened, that they had been discussing this in that diet for a while. And, motivations or not from the politician that brought this subject matter into that diet, I'm going to tell you this was the reason why. So it wasn't specious. It wasn't, it wasn't to save their political career. This was going to happen eventually, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People, it's like I'm not one of those people that thinks that everybody that sees everything that they do in video games are going to go duplicate those things. I don't think if you play GTA, you're going to go, kill a hooker. But like, I think that, things like this, it's showing you that these shrines are not respected, whereas they actually very much are. It's portraying them in these real places in a light of just like, yeah, do whatever you want.
Yeah. But see, and all of this is because of a silly video game. Not Ghost of Tsushima is great, but a silly video game that's going to inspire more disrespect, I think, is what you're leading to. And I agree with you. I have a feeling that that this kind of thing isn't going to go away, and until games are put back on a respect leash, I think we're going to have a problem. And I would say that I don't blame the folks in Japan for seeing the presentation of Assassin's Creed Shadows as a full disrespectful act of their entire culture.
Ghost of Tsushima was actually pretty respectful to the shrines. Like you could actually like go and like pray to the Buddha statue in it. Like I thought it was very respectful, which is funny because it's a game not made by the Japanese, but managed to still actually capture the spirit.
They loved it,
unlike other games.
Yeah. And
didn't they make those guys like official like residents or whatever, or like official residents
some kind of honorary something. And was that Korea or Japan?
What?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Japan.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
So I think I'm trying to remember where the studio was though. Was it America?
Oh, the studio was American. It was
Because
in,
it's
I
Sucker
believe,
Punch, right?
yeah, I believe it was in the American West,
That's
on the
crazy,
West
man.
Coast.
It's amazing. Anyway, we've got of course more super chats to get to in a moment, but I want to dive into the next story right away, okay? And we'll get to that. Yeah, Sucker Punch. That's what I thought. Yeah, so amazing, just amazing. Because that game is just. I mean, I loved every minute of that game. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's a Western studio, which explains, why they're completely torpedoing the sequel with DEI nonsense.
Yeah, that what a destructive moment there. Anyway, let's not. We'll get into more destruction here in a moment.
Well, if you guys want more information on that decision and how it was received back in Universal's Japan, Sony's Japan office, check out a great article written by Francesco Salbeck over on That Park Place, where he dives into the Sony Civil War. He gives a whole breakdown on what happened behind the scenes with the situation with Ghost of Yotai. Yeah. Sorry, I had to get that plug in for the website.
No, absolutely. In fact, we've got a story by our friend here in just a moment. But the next story I want to talk about is from PC Gamer, because as we're talking about Assassin's Creed tangentially, we're going to talk more directly about it, and the fact that they have all these publications running cover for this game. I was flabbergasted that they really are trying to protect Ubisoft, but most specifically the game, because Ubisoft says don't compare Assassin's Creed Shadows to the success of Valhalla. The latter launched in COVID's perfect storm, and feedback on platforms less affected by review bombing is stellar. You're not being review bombed. Your game has problems. I'm going to get to my review in just a little while, guys. But when you look at this, Ubisoft just needs to protect this at all costs. It's the last opportunity they have for net bookings for a while, because they don't have much in development, do they, Marvin?
No, not really at all. So the Assassin's Creed Hex or Hexa was it's supposed to be the next one, but now they're saying that might be rethought a bit.
Well, they're supposedly were reworking it in the extreme, but
because it's lesbian witches, which as if we haven't had enough of that in the last year from modern entertainment.
Yeah, I don't think they've been received well in the last couple of years in particular. So, but this Joshua Woolens over there at PC Gamer says, and let's be honest, the second biggest launch in AC history is still a very big launch. That we're relying on their word. Because demonstrably, if we look at the current player base through Steam alone, they haven't exceeded 68,000 players, right?
Exactly. And when they're being very coy with the verbiage that they are using. They're saying that there are 2 million players, not that they have sold 2 million units.
No. So. And I don't think that their net units booked is very good in any regard. We'll know more in the next quarter when they're trying to explain to investors why please stop suing us, or why please don't be mad we're going into bankruptcy. But anyway, Assassin's Creed is doing very well based on this. Now, why I'm using this article, because in just a moment, I'm going to give you the counterpoint to this, because somebody at that Park Place wrote a wonderful counterpoint. But they're saying it's incredibly well, and they're trying to say it's incredibly well received too, which is also a lie.
You wouldn't believe how well it's doing. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't believe it.
I don't believe it either. But despite it all, it's not quite doing as well as AC Valhalla did back in November of 2020. Shadows is the second biggest launch in the series' long history, not the first. Well, it's more expensive, number one. And number two, they're counting the people that are subscribed to Ubisoft Plus or whatever it's called.
Yeah, their subscription service. That's the thing. That's the thing that they're trying to hide, is that when they're saying players, they're counting subscribers who are not actually buying the game. It's money that was already coming into Ubisoft. It's not additional revenue that they're driving with sales of this game.
Right. But, the funny thing about this, Marvin, is in the next sentence, but per an internal Ubisoft email seen by IGN, the company is telling employees that it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison to compare Shadows to Valhalla. Valhalla launched under extraordinary conditions, says Ubisoft's internal comms, smack dab in the middle of a widespread lockdown and brand new console hardware. That's right, PS5. It also is easier to track sales then, because as far as I know, they didn't have this fraudulent Ubisoft Plus. So they weren't asking people for $17 a month, and people weren't subscribing to 1 month to play games at a discount, which is what's happening now. So the former of those two things kind of sucked for you and me, but they were great for entertainment businesses. It was the perfect storm that we may never see again, says Ubisoft. Okay. Assassin's Creed Shadows is a hit, and Steam played a significant role in that. 27% of activations were on PC, and it's the second biggest AC launch of all time. Full stop. They just claimed that Steam is over 25%, 1/4 of activations.
A quarter of activations?
That's what it says here. Yeah, just over 27%.
So 60 something thousand times 4. What does that give us? I'm not a math guy.
Around 240,000, 250,000.
Well, that would be about my expectation.
Now, not everybody's playing the game at the same time, so we'll give it some leeway. Let's say they had 100,000 people. They've never got there on overall gameplay, and they never. I mean, I don't predict this game will do any better than where it is, but multiply it times 4. It's easier math. 400,000 players. Where are these 2 million players at, dude? I'm sorry.
Honestly, I think it comes from a 1.5 million subscribers. They're probably counting every single one of them because they can do that through some loophole semantics. And then you've got maybe another 500,000 that you've sold. If you sold 500,000,
I don't know, but
no?
I mean, well, I'm sure that they're definitely stretching the numbers. We know that I think they're counting every single person on Ubisoft Minus.
It's possible.
And if that's the case, they've sold 500,000 copies. Let's be kind. 500,000 copies.
I could see it selling 500,000 copies. It's still Assassin's Creed. It still has name value. There's plenty of people that just see Assassin's Creed and they don't know about any of the nonsense going on behind the scenes. The trailers didn't look terrible. They put their best foot forward in that. It's not until you see the actual gameplay where you're like, oh my gosh, this looks like it was for the PS3.
All right. So I'm going to do back of the napkin calculation. 500,000 copies at $70 each, median price. 35 million.
That's you think 35 mil?
No, that's what I'm just saying, about $35 million.
That is not as much as they put into this game because, according to the 2-hour-long credits and the thousands of people that worked on this, I've heard hundreds of millions of dollars went into the creation of this game.
Look, let's give them 1 million. They sold 1 million copies. Okay,
that's what Veilguard supposedly did. I mean, they were trying to.
If they sold 1 million copies, you double it. So they made $70 million on a game they spent several $100 million on.
Yeah,
this is a nightmare. I don't care what anybody says. They did not sell 2 million copies of this game.
No, and they're not claiming that they sold 2 million copies of this game. They want you to infer from their statement that they sold 2 million copies of this game, but that's not what happened, and it's not what they're saying.
I mean, look, I'm sure the numbers are very low because I'm basically doing just estimations. But I'm giving them 1 million sales, despite evidence that would point otherwise. And I'm going to tell you right now, people that actually pick up Ubisoft Connect or whatever it's called, Plus, whatever, people who pick that up, what
are you getting out of it?
Yeah. I'm like $70 a month.
Yeah.
And what if I only sign up for 1 month, like most people do? Like Jonas. Jonas signed up for a month of Ubisoft Plus
to play Star Wars Outlaws,
the Star Wars thing, right? Because by the way, guys, the plan is for every one of us to take a hit on a bad game. Okay, I'm taking the hit on Assassin's Creed Shadows, which you're going to see me play.
I did. I took the hit on Veilguard.
Yeah. So whatever's going to be awful, we're going to have to make Loki go next.
Hey, Culture, I have to restart my computer. I'll be right back.
Go ahead. No worries. So on that note, I'm just going to say, despite everything, Assassin's Creed Shadows pre-orders are tracking solidly. We don't even know what that means. In line with those of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I didn't think that did very well. The second most successful entry in the franchise. Okay. Isn't this supposed to be the second most successful? There's a lot of weird metrics here. So what does this mean for how the company thinking about Shadows? It's more meaningful to compare Shadows to entries like Origins and Odyssey and Mirage, games released in more typical cycles. Okay. So does anybody feel like the story's on the right path? I don't. I mean, they've got reviewers here saying AC Shadows review late bloomer, giving you a breakdown of this. They have stories on here on this site. I'm going to press X to doubt on pretty much everything that we've seen here, and then I'm going to jump to the story that we are covering over on that Park Place for that game place, and I will tell you that right now, as we speak, that's the wrong story. There we go. Frank says this: media touts Assassin's Creed Shadows as a success. It's not. Yeah, we know that. We know that it's not. It could be. Maybe eventually it released. And he says here in his opinion piece that one might naively assume Ubisoft's woes are over. Surely, with their self-proclaimed reputable marketing and unwavering dedication to historical authenticity, all of this is very tongue-in-cheek, everyone. This game will sell like cold lemonade in the desert. I don't think it has, and I don't think Frank thinks so either. After all the delays, costing a rumored $20 million, were supposedly to address the issue raised by fans and the barrage of bad press. Right? Even Japan's national diet weighed in, with Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba slamming the game, stating, "Defacing a shrine is out of the question. It is an insult to the nation itself." That's a scathing rebuke of Ubisoft's cultural missteps. Surely, Ubisoft fixed all of this. No more controversies, no more misfires, just smooth sailing ahead. At least that's what the delusional mind might hope. Bending reality as shamelessly as Ubisoft's marketing experts. The game is being hyped by a slew of questionable media urinalists as a return to form for the franchise. Sounds promising until you notice the phrase popping up everywhere. The Gamer, Hip Hop, Wired, The Escapist, Windows Central, all parroting it like school kids copying off the same cheat sheet. That happens all the time in media, though, doesn't it? This suspiciously uniform praise, often tied to the game's supposed nod to classics like Assassin's Creed 2 stealth focus, reeks of coordinated spin rather than genuine insight. And I think he's right. I think he's also right here with his subheadline, Cultural Trash Fire, Ubisoft's unrepentant blunders. And with that, Marvin joins us again.
Hello.
Now that Assassin's Creed Shadows is out, by the way, Frank wrote this is a banger, dude.
He did. It's a long one, but it's a it pulls you down the page. He did a great job.
Yeah, and that's why I'm focusing on just the parts we're going to cover here. We can peek at the numbers, but first let's dissect the baffling decisions Ubisoft left festering in the game, sparking fresh controversies. There are choices they didn't remove, rework, or improve despite the delays, even though there were day one patches, kids. Ubisoft loudly touted one delay reason to make the parkour better than ever. Yet gamers and audiences agree it's still mediocre at best. It's still not as good as fluid as the Assassin's Creed 2.
Which is insane.
I know, blows my mind. Lagging far behind Assassin's Creed Unity, which nearly a decade later remains the gold standard for fluid rooftop area acrobatics. I agree with that. I think that's probably the only part of Unity that was really successful. Lots of. Do you remember the glitches in that game? It was maddening. So much for that promise. But what about other fixes they bragged about? We're not entirely sure how much of Yasuke's content they quote unquote fixed. No, they just left in the same sex stuff, or axed to avoid offending people. We do know they scrapped some questionable music tracks, not the one in the first cutscene. I feel like it was, surf rock meets Kill Bill. It was nuts. Anyway, we know they scrap. Okay, like the jarring hip hop beats and the blared while Yasuke hacked through foes in combat or executions. Picture this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love the point that he makes right here. Fans rightfully ask, what does an American hip hop track have to do with Yasuke? A Mozambique-born African figure with zero ties to modern U.S. culture. Well, because they made him look like George Floyd.
And Mozambique indeed. So anyway, that got yanked after the backlash because it was dumb. The cringe here outstrips even Mass Effect's Andromeda's infamous "My face is tired" line. Yes.
Probably one of the worst ones ever.
It was. Take Hattori Hanzo, Japan's legendary ninja master, often dubbed the godfather of ninja for his strategic genius and leadership of the Iga clan in the 16th century. In Shadows, he's reduced to a groveling servant after Naoe, armed with Mary Sue's superpowers, beats him into submission and claims him as her lackey.
You can't even make this stuff up. It's absolutely insane that they did something like that to historic. Again, we have to spit in the face of every Japanese male historical figure, because I've been saying it since the beginning, dude. The progressive left hates Asian men. They hate Asian culture because Asian culture is built around family, respect, responsibility, honor. All things that they want eliminated from modern life, and this is just the destruction of it.
It was, and it's a problem. And this story does go on. I really want everybody, if you get a chance to read it, please do so, because Frank put a lot of time and thought into it, and a lot of facts that I think otherwise go missed by other people who've been paying attention and reviewers. And to that end, Marvin, I'm going to give my review.
Please.
I didn't like the game so far.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. Now I'll get more in depth here in a moment, but I want to grab some of these amazing super chats from amazing people like Gory Eyed Beast for 5 Canadian. That's going to get us like a couple hours play on Mortal Kombat. And how much more do you think would Assassin's Creed sell if they had simply allowed players to make their own characters like Saints Row 3? I think they would have made a ton of money. I don't know why they don't offer that option in Assassin's Creed. Give them a generic name, and just run with it, right?
Right.
In Assassin's Creed, it was easy because it didn't matter if you were male or female. You were just called boss.
Right. That makes sense.
I mean, it worked out well. But this is crazy. I don't know. At this point, Marvin, I'm at a loss when it comes to this game. But I think being able to create characters is probably a good thing, except it would not fit quite so narratively with how they were trying originally to position these games. I don't think they even care anymore because it doesn't seem like they care about actual historical fact. This is widely diverts from what actually happened in that time period in Japan and who the leadership was.
Right.
And they took actual things like the Aiga clan, and actual people, like Oda Nobunaga.
Well, it's like look at Assassin's Creed 3. We inserted Connor into things like Bunker Hill, into things like Paul Revere's Ride, into things like the Boston Tea Party, but those things still happened, and the people that did them still did them. Connor was just there.
It's funny. I recently played 3, and I just played through the Revere mission, and that was kind of clunky.
It was clunky. I don't like. That's the one mission that I really hate. One of the missions that I really hate in that game.
And then you go up the hill after you've done doing your original run, and you fight to direct the boys in the army to succeed there. But I still feel like that was really clunky and inconsistent with history. It doesn't matter. It's just some of these games stick to the facts and some of them don't. And while I didn't mind them deviating with the Borgias with Ezio Auditore di Firenze, I felt like they really did stick with the historical narratives of the time and the buildings. I'd never seen, so well detailed maps. It was incredible.
You didn't have something like Leonardo da Vinci trying to paint the Mona Lisa, but he can't do it, so Ezio's sister comes in and does it for him. Like none of that. That's the kind of stuff that modern Ubisoft gives you.
Yeah. And I mean, again, they're constantly playing they're playing in the wrong field, and they have been for a while, and it's all because of the people that they hired. And, especially when you get to the resources people that I don't even know what they call them. You used to call them human resources. Now I don't know what they call them. Diversity leaders. I don't care.
Something like that.
Well, jump into the next super chat. We've got Alpha and Omega for $5 saying that was a Korean. No, really? Legal Mindset found that. Well, I'm going to have to reach out to Andrew. Thank you for that, Alpha and Omega.
I knew it was some kind of bathroom nonsense.
That's gross and disgusting and very disrespectful. Mark Fields for $2 says, keep it up, Crusaders. I'm trying, my friend. I really am. And so is he. He's doing a great job. And finally, we get Pinochet's Helicopter Tours thoughts for $2. Are normies insulted? Actions of UB say otherwise. I don't know about that. I think it would be hard to say at this point. We'll know more what the normies' reactions were to this game when we get actual sales numbers or net bookings numbers from Ubisoft for comparison. And I think that's at the point, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marvin, but I think that's the point at which we'll know to what level of early success this game had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I'm always trying to, look out for the things that we're talking about to make sure that we're accurate to what actually happened in the background. And for that measure, I'm going to start my review now. Like many of the Ubisoft games, the installation process was long and frustrating. Having to guarantee that I didn't have, or I had to have a Ubisoft Connect account in order to play this on Steam was maddening. Had I elected to purchase it on PS5, it would have connected naturally to whatever Ubisoft things I have to connect through the PlayStation Network. And I'm part of whatever club system is for the Assassin's Creed game, just I guess by the fact that I played almost every single game, if not every game over there. So it took forever. I set up frustratingly, a new Ubisoft Connect thing, because the one that I had I think I played the Legion. I played Legion on Watch Dogs Legion on this computer, and I did it on, I think, my Twitch account way back when. But anyway, that took a while. Once that was completed and I got everything connected, I was able to progress forward into starting the game. Early startup to the game was frustrating. I was playing through the early tutorial where I'd been.
Who do you start as? Do you start as Yasuke? Or do you start as?
You start as Yasuke. Yeah, you start as Yasuke, and you are in the presence of the Jesuits that are there.
Okay,
the missionaries, and you meet Oda, and he insists that you be given to him as a slave, which he wasn't a slave, but they reworked everything to make it like the Jesuits owned him as a slave. And anyway, so Oda ends up getting Yasuke, and Yasuke goes to do some of these battles and help conquer these places that Oda was trying to accomplish. And Yasuke's control systems and the gameplay is worse than any other Assassin's Creed I've ever played.
Really?
They've made it very difficult to configure the control sticks. The combat system isn't clear. Instead of having a more natural look system, you really have to drive your thumbsticks. Now, mind you, I'm playing it with a controller and not a keyboard and mouse, because I'm very unsuccessful with that with these kinds of games. These are made to be played with a game controller. So by the time I got all that, I'd spent an hour just getting all of that and understanding the combat system together when I ended my first day of play with everybody else out there watching. The next time I played, the very next day, wasn't any better. While I understood the control system and I moved on from Yasuke very early on to Naoe, about 60% of the time is filled up with cutscenes and story elements and all of this in an effort to create artificial character development. And then I was introduced to, like, you got to paint system. I'm like, I don't want to do this. It's going to be a waste of time. I'm not collecting anything because I'm not inspired to do that. The surrounding areas outside of, like, the villages and the fortresses and in the castles are very sparse. One of the things that surprised me in a good way was that I could pray at shrines, and that there was a benefit to doing that.
And you couldn't destroy them?
I didn't even try. First of all, it wouldn't have occurred to me to ever do that. But they do tell you not to climb on the Shinto gates.
Okay.
That's new. Something. All of that was a stealth edit. It was added later. But once you get into the game flow, some of it feels like Assassin's Creed. Like the viewpoints. You go and map your viewpoints, and you climb up the things, and then you jump off into the pile of hay. Naoe does that properly. Yasuke just lands on his tuchus in the hay. He's no diving.
Interesting.
The bad guy fights.
Like, if you go in the water, is it an instant death?
Yeah. There's swimming. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But, I was afraid it was going to be the now brother can't swim.
No, I didn't try to swim with him yet. I don't know.
Oh, well, you better find out.
Yeah, so he doesn't drown. But I do know that they really are focused on Naoe. So this was narratively, they were always going to make this a PC game, a politically correct game, not PC, personal computer. They were always going to make it woke. So, and you can't escape the narrative choices. They're very clearly there. Voice acting is terrible. You know, the mushroom thing. I haven't gotten to that yet, but the conversations, even in the cutscenes, are a little challenging and could be taken as offensive, if you wanted to.
Right.
And again, it's the reason that they force you to play Naue is for the very same reason that that they were frustrated that most of the players, almost 70%, chose Alexios in
Right,
Odyssey.
over Cassandra, and male Ivor over female Ivor. You know, there's a thing in the game where you can have it like the game will like choose for you, and it looked to me like you'd be able to bounce back and forth between the male and female Ivors based on whatever period you're in. And so I selected it in my first playthrough, and you just female Ivor the entire time, unless you do the Asgard dream missions, in which then you're male. It's insane.
I will say that most of the characters portrayed outside of the protagonist in this case, at least so far with Naue, everybody else is dumb. I think I agree with Frank in his assessment of that. I feel bad for the people involved in this game that did put forth their best effort, but from my experience, there isn't much upside. Now, mind you, I'm going to get another 5, 6, 7, 8 hours into this game and really evaluate it. But so far, if you ask people who've watched me, I mean, outside of the out of place, surf rock cutscene, which I danced to until I was able to fight,
Right.
which is it's incredibly out of place. I've never had any excitement or joy from the game yet. That's a problem. It's a video game.
That is a problem. That sounds like me with Veilguard. I had that. This sounds exactly the same. I had the same complaints, and it was just terrible.
I appreciate the guide system. I want to say a good thing or two. I appreciate the guide system. You can turn on and off at will. It draws a nice little chalk line from destination to destination or mission to mission. And you can send out scouts. But even that type of utilization is difficult to understand or even utilize. Remember how you used to be able to send assassins on missions and stuff like that? I'm assuming it's going to be part of this game as well. But I guess you can go and scout different territories ahead of time before you show up there. And they find
I was
missions.
in Valhalla.
It's similar to that. Yeah. Well, it's not at this point in time. I don't understand how that you benefit from that. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it works out better later in the game. I don't know. I mean, at this point I feel like it was $70 wasted. And one last thing. I like the horse mechanics, the driving the horse and everything. I enjoyed that. That's a little better than it has
historically not been Ubisoft's strong point.
Right.
So.
Right. I just feel like it's a lot better in this game. So, speaking of a lot better, we got another $10 in quarters from our good friend Radial Drago for €10. Well, excuse me, that's about $13.50 in quarters. Thank you for that. I mentioned this during your stream, Culture, but if you made Yasuke and Naue gay, then how does the Animus get their DNA to record their memories? It's a possible plot hole in the story because of DEI. No, it is. I mean, Yasuke would have had nothing for you to experience. They've got all kinds of problems. They really do. I mean, they would have had to have had a relationship with somebody.
And look at Yasuke can he can pair off with Nobunaga's
wife,
sister or wife.
Is it sister or wife?
It's a really important historical figure.
She's the mother of Japan.
As far as I can tell, like not even with Cleopatra, you've never been able to bang a historical figure before. It's not like in Assassin's Creed 3 you were rolling up on Betsy Ross, and being like, "Hey, you want to take a break? You want to take a break from sewing that flag?"
That's really weird.
None of that was happening.
Yeah. Oh no, it's his sister to Oichi. Oichi is sister to Oda Nobunaga.
She's an important person in Japanese history.
She's known as the mother of Japan. She's known as the mother of Japan. So, again, these are notes I'm getting from Frank's story, but I'm just going to tell you, They've got a huge plot holes.
Yes,
I like the new version of the Animus to a certain extent. I don't like, what I'm dealing with though. And all of this reminded me about the divergent point when they decided they were going to kill off Desmond, excuse me.
Desmond. Yeah. Since they've killed off Desmond, I've had very little, like, Black Flag was fun because Black Flag was fun, but the modern day story has meant nothing to me since Assassin's Creed 3 with Desmond. I actually cared about Desmond. I actually enjoyed the things that you're able to do in the modern day as Desmond. I thought it was very interesting. I liked fighting as Desmond. There was a lot of stuff that I enjoyed in Assassin's Creed 3, specifically with him. And when he died, I was just like, this is a really dumb move.
Well, one of the things I saw in the game, which I think is good if you're going to let young ones play it, was that you could tone down the bloodshed, like remove it, like the gore and things, and some other stuff that's a little rough in this game. But they also tried to make an effort early on when this thing released to do that as well, stealth patching the game. This is from an article from Bounding into Comics from Spencer Baculi, and this tones down shrine destruction and civilian bloodshed, and it does work. First of all, it never would have occurred to me, as I said before, to destroy a shrine. Was that something you were going to go and do?
No,
Marvin?
And you've never been able to cause destruction or attack civilians in any Assassin's Creed game ever. If you attack a civilian in Assassin's Creed, it gives you a warning, and if you do it again, you get derezzed. Like, you get completely taken out of the game because that's not a thing that your assassin heroes are supposed to be doing. It's part of the Assassin's Creed. Stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent.
Yeah. And it's part of the creed.
Yeah. It's a major part of the creed.
It's just like, I mean, you got like 4 directives essentially. Regardless, it doesn't matter. But what does matter is that this article, it breaks down what they did in their day 1 patch, basically. And then from there, they've had stealthy patches. Did you know that?
Yeah.
So, but the day 1 patch made it so that, it drastically reduced the amount of violence a given player can do on both religious shrines and non-armed civilians. You still do it, by the way. I mean, I had to take sword to civilians in the game as Yasuke.
Do you have to?
It's part of the intro thing, it seems. Right?
Ugh.
I mean, the farmers pick up, arms.
But they're enemy combatants. It's not like you're just going through the
sure.
The town, like.
Yeah. But the shrine violence is basically over. That's a good thing, I guess.
That is a good thing.
But I did learn how to pray. That was kind of cool. And then there's a pattern prayer thing, shrine that I found just outside of my hideaway, whatever. But one of the many historical locations that have been recreated for the player to visit, thanks to the game's dedication to overall environmental destructibility mechanic, this and every other shrine in the region can be thoroughly smashed up by either Noe or Yasuke, with everything from furnishings to followers able to be sliced and diced. At least that was originally planned. This, by the way, the finishing moves, yeah they're rough.
It just floored me that it was ever even a thought that in an Assassin's Creed game you'd be able to just go to town on the townspeople. That's never been a thing from the very first Assassin's Creed game. It is like even in Assassin's Creed 2, if you tried to attack a civilian, the entire screen would shake and it would say Ezio did not attack the innocent.
Yeah, so you're not going to get stuck inside of movable objects. My game crashed outright. That was one of the things I experienced in the first 2 hours of playing it. So you can't get stuck in movable objects after dodging forward and interacting with them in Kofuns. Fix for procedural weapons being removed incorrectly when selling items. Adjust to prevent players from going out of the bounds when being in a prone position against objects. By the way, I've been able to pass through things, so I don't know what they're talking about. Improved horse navigation, which I praised. reducing issues when turning and blocked paths. Yeah, the horse will jump over stuff like the railings and things. That's great. Lighting adjustments for cave, kofun, and architectural entrances and exits. They still have problems with that. I was just in a castle the other day, and that was kind of an annoying thing. Fixes for clothing clipping. That's still happening. Citizens without weapons no longer bleed when attacked.
But you can still attack them.
Yeah, reducing unintended blood spill in temples and shrines. Tables and racks in temples and shrines are now indestructible, and some objects like drums and bowls can still be broken, as they are generic ones present everywhere. So players can still move, push them. Okay. But they did a lot of other things to this. I don't know. I just feel like this is a real mess. But I know that Spencer did a good job on writing the story.
Of course, Spencer always does a good job.
Yeah. So if you take a look at this, you'll understand what all they tried to fix. I don't think they were successful.
No, they were definitely not successful in anything.
Anyway, let's move on. We're gonna grab a. Let's see. Oh no, those are already done. Super chats. I'm gonna remove those from the plate. And yeah, I still think this is very relevant. It's not only a possible plot hole, it's a DEI disaster. So there's that. So on that note, we need to move on. Marvin,
yes, sir.
You've been hard at work today. Have you done your proper Fortnite breakdown yet?
No, I have not. That's probably going to be a tomorrow thing. With all the Marvel and all the Snow White stuff that has been coming out today, I have not had a chance for anything that wasn't like super breaking news. It's as it is, when we get off this, I have to write an article on the fact that they finished the hours-long Avengers Doomsday announcement, and no Brie Larson.
How fascinating.
Yep. I mean, she's not the only big name. There's no Brie Larson. There's no Tom Holland. No Benedict Cumberbatch. But all three of the Marvels were not in this.
I don't think that's going to be true.
Well, we'll see.
I think you're going to get Miss Marvel, and I think you're going to get the fake replacement for Jeremy Renner's
Dude, they announced like 30 people for this movie. Like,
well, of course,
they announced M'Baku and Ghost.
Of course, they're trying to push the new Avengers everybody hate. This is dumb. This Doomsday thing is going to be a disaster. I hate to say it. I just figured it's definitely going to be a disaster.
But the only thing that I liked was they announced Ian McKellen as Magneto.
Okay.
Ian McKellen as Magneto. They got Patrick Stewart, Kelsey Grammer, Ian McKellen, the guy, Alan Cumming to play Nightcrawler again, James Marsden as Cyclops, and Rebecca Romijn as Mystique.
So they brought back almost everybody.
Well, everybody but like no Halle Berry, no Elliot Page. I was really waiting to see if that was going to happen.
No.
No Iceman, no Hugh Jackman, no Gene, no Halle Berry was the one that I thought for sure they were going to get.
How can you do that movie without Hugh Jackman?
I don't know. Probably saving him for Secret War. They got to save something for Secret War.
Man, if they keep stacking on the quote unquote new Avengers or West Coast Avengers or any of this garbage, I'm going to lose my mind. Nobody wants it. It was widely rejected. The audience in comics didn't want it. Anytime they try to introduce these unpopular characters, even in other films, nobody wants them.
It was all of the Thunderbolts, with the exception of Taskmaster, which I think means Taskmaster's probably in the movie. And including though the Sentry was announced for this.
Yeah, well, but there's no Sentry in Thunderbolts.
He's the villain in Thunderbolts. Is the Sentry?
Oh,
yeah. Well, and you know who else was announced?
Wrote him out.
You know who else was announced? Namor.
Namor. No,
he's back.
By the way, they're bringing characters in nobody cares about or wants. Taskmaster, nobody wants that version of Taskmaster. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're just getting it in Thunderbolts, and she'll probably not make it out.
Anyway. All right. Well, handhelds are going to be something we're going to talk about for the next couple of days. Why? There's a Nintendo Direct specifically for Switch tomorrow. Next week is the Switch 2 Nintendo event. Now, we're going to be covering those. To what extent, I don't know. Probably just a video tomorrow because I don't think I can make it work for me to do it live. Somebody else?
I think Jonas and I were talking about possibly going live during.
If you can do that, I would truly appreciate it because I think they would appreciate the opportunity to see the event live with your commentary. I will say this. I have high expectations for both of these events. Tomorrow specifically. Yeah. I think they are going to give the last big push on the software you're going to be able to acquire and things that are coming up for Switch specifically. But I think that it will also lean into what is going to be talked about at the Switch 2 event, which will say, hey, look, you're going to be able to play those games on this. And I think people will love that idea. I don't know about you. But we've got more to get to. I want to talk about handhelds, so let's jump into the story. Valve has officially staked its claim to PC gaming on handhelds because guess what Lenovo is going to run on?
Handheld?
This is going to be great. So their collaboration with hardware manufacturers and chipset makers strengthens SteamOS's position in the handheld space. They're basically going to own it, which is good, which means you're going to be essentially able to bring everything from your Steam library over, and you're going to be able to play PC games on here easily and without a lot of trouble. At the CES presentation, Lenovo refreshed its Lenovo Legion Go lineup of PC handhelds, and among the new devices was the Legion Go S powered by SteamOS. It's the first ever third-party device to ship with Valve's operating system, which is stable, and I love it. I think it works really well. The GUI is solid. It addresses Windows shortcomings on PC when it comes to handhelds, and the Steam Deck have basically built this market, and I use mine every time I travel, even when we're at meetups and stuff and events and retreats. That thing will be with me. It plays Cyberpunk 2077 great, Civilization, all the stuff I play, and I can plug it into one of my traveling batteries.
So you can play PC games on handheld, like with the Steam Deck.
Yeah. Yeah, all of my Steam library is on there. I just have to load the game on there. So, yeah, I love it. And there's no licensing fees with the SteamOS apparently, like there is with the Windows handheld systems. And it doesn't. I mean, it's pretty light. If you like, I think if Jeff's still in the chat, I don't see him, but I mean, he's a Steam Deck, promoter as well. I really enjoy it. It's a Linux system, and
sounds good.
Pretty stoked. And we got a lot of games coming. So I look. Obviously, this isn't the Switch, but we'll be talking about the Switch soon enough tomorrow. In fact, we got another story to cover that. I just think handhelds are going to be the wave of the future as we're able to reduce the size of, gaming systems and PCs. I mean, have you seen what's coming out more and more frequently is the changes from NVIDIA. Pretty soon we're going to have a PC that's as powerful as the thing that's on my desk, that graphically is as pure as you could ever imagine, that will exceed the performance of the screens that we're looking at. And they're going to cost $600-$700 and be able to be put in your pocket. It's just crazy stuff. So, but as you can see, the projections for sales of handheld hardware is going to go up astronomically. So starting in 2025, they are looking at the numbers climbing upwards in the sales in the millions. 26 million projected for this year. Next year, it's a little bit lower because it's going to be, obviously limited models. 2027, you're getting more models. In 2028, you get more models. So as more equipment comes out, I think you're going to see a broader use of handhelds, and I think the Steam OS is going to be the one that they use. And everybody uses the Steam storefront, although apparently you can sideload a lot of stuff. Never tried that yet.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's 17,000 Steam games and more that are deck verified or playable. When this thing came out, there were only 1,000, and most of them were the newer games that they had an opportunity to at least somewhat develop for. But I have yet to come across anything that I couldn't play from my Steam library. And that includes what's the game? Hang on. Something that you wouldn't think.
I'm sure you'll figure it out eventually.
It fell out of my brain. Anyway, there's just a lot to it, and I have to say, I think the future of gaming could be these handhelds, because you plug them right into your television, you just play the game from there.
As long as there's an option, as long as there's an option to play it on the big TV, I don't mind it. I like the freedom of handheld. I thought the Switch was the most brilliant thing Nintendo's ever done.
It is. I can take that on vacation, and I can play it on a TV in the hotel, you know, or in like the Airbnb or whatever. I mean, it's amazing. And you get to 4-player gaming if you need to, or multiplayer if you go through the internet. I'm telling you that this Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch are probably the most innovative systems out there. And you should try one out. The Lenovo's aren't going to be all that expensive. So might be worth your while to checking out when you have extra funds or ask for a present. You know, or you know somebody that's getting rid of their old tech to get new.
Yeah.
Speaking of old tech to new, we got one final story I want to finish on that I think is very, very important. So that you can get back to getting all the wonderful things done that need to be done over on that Gameplace.
Yeah, I still have so much to do before my game stream tonight.
Which is what I was kind of worried about. So let's do this. Let's take a look at what Nintendo intends to give us tomorrow and speculate on what we're going to get next week. With that being said, let's take a look at what we've got for Nintendo announcements tomorrow from IGN, because they dropped the story here. Nintendo announces Switch 1 focused Direct ahead of next week's Switch 2 Direct. Is this the last hurrah? Well, in many ways, I would say yes.
Yeah, probably.
But it won't phase out the Switch. It will eventually phase out the Switch.
Yeah, I think just like when any next gen console debuts, you're gonna have former gen
several years
still going for a couple years. Especially, well, it depends on how easy the Switch 2s are to get, because with the PS5, I mean, they were very reluctant to stop producing for the PS4 because nobody could get their hands on one.
Yeah, and this is the other problem, is the equipment won't be as scarce because they've already got a lot of equipment manufactured. So I think we'll have less of the trouble with the Switch too. But I still think that developers will still be making games for the Switch for a long time. They made a lot of Wii games way after it was supposedly retired. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so is this the last hurrah? I mean, for new development, yes. Nintendo announced that they're focused solely on Nintendo Switch. It's going to start at 7 a.m. Pacific tomorrow, and will feature around 30 minutes of upcoming games for the Nintendo Switch, which that pretty much means it's up to you, Marvin, and Jonas for this one.
I'm pretty sure we got it covered.
Good. So Nintendo made a point of clarifying that there will be no updates about the Switch 2 during this presentation, and that will be at 6 a.m. Pacific time on April 2nd, which will probably be you again, just so you know. So I'm going to be tuning in to that late, or watch a replay, or watch you guys cover it. But I guess Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is still down as a 2025 Switch game. I imagine it'll play on both.
Interesting.
We know that Pokemon Legends Z to A is coming to the Switch at some point. I'm sure we'll see that. You've got Hollow Knight Skill Song, announced 6 years ago. That one should be there.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason nobody's going to be worried is Switch 2 is backwards compatible.
Well, and as we switch to the Switch 2,
yeah,
do you think the tentpole games? Now, I'm talking Zelda, I'm talking Smash Brothers, I'm talking about whatever Mario adventure they're going to do for that one. Do you think they'll also make that available for the Switch?
I think probably, because they'll have a broader base of people who already have a console. I think, and because the games are going to be backwards compatible, the primary sale format for that'll be the original.
Nintendo's
Switch.
never done that before, from what I remember. Like, they never had a backwards compatible
system. We're in new territory.
I like that.
Yeah. And so I kind of feel this is going to be great. But Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, I'm very excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the people that are excited for that. Metroid was never my thing, and first person really isn't my thing. So that's a pass for me, but I'm excited for the people that enjoy the character.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I love it. I don't know about the people in the chat, but I really love it. I think it's good. There are people who are not down with Nintendo completely, but I don't know. I'm with you in here, Uin Kumiya, who says the new Switch will be worth it.
Have they said what it's retailing at yet?
I think it's going to be about $50 to $100 more than the previous start of the previous.
Really, you think so? What was the Switch at start? Was it $300?
I don't remember. I wanted to say it was $399, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I knew they were trying to beat out the price point to make the other consoles look absurdly overpriced.
Right.
I just can't believe that Nintendo in their game cycle for consoles is actually doing this, a little earlier than I would have anticipated. But
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's going to be an upgrade, and I'm excited about it. Anyway, that's it for the Switch conversation, and we're looking forward to the following week with the Switch 2. So I can't wait to see what your coverage is tomorrow. Let's take a look at what the chat has to say. We've got SSG Adam Juneman in the house saying, I'm going to wait a year to get the Switch 2 as my Switch still works. So does mine.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Both of them here in the house work.
I'll get the Switch 2 when there's a need to get the Switch 2. If everything is still coming out for both and it's not like a marked improvement, I'm gonna feel no pull to get the Switch 2.
Yeah, and I think Postum is correct. I mean, Nintendo manages people's expectations, and they do it very well. Kalikio Ketty weighs in and says 70% of those games will be meh. Well, some people like the story and the follow through on some of that stuff, but I understand your point. Wait, I don't remember this. The GameCube and the Wii. What?
What? I can't imagine that's true. No, because the GameCube discs were like the little tiny ones.
I never would have even thought about that.
Hold on. Was Wii backwards compatible with GameCube? Yes! The original Wii models are backwards compatible with GameCube.
How did I not?
But later models were not. So those original Wiis, the ones released in 2006, the ones that you couldn't find when there was like the Wii scarcity, like, it was impossible to get a Wii anywhere. You
mean the PlayStation 3 Fat Boy?
Exactly.
Switch out. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Right. I didn't even remember that because the GameCube that I was, or I should say the Wii that I had didn't ever do that. So, or I never even tried, I think. So that's crazy. The Mom is here for $5.25. Thank you. The Mom says, I would like to point out that every handheld after Game Boy till the Switch was garbage.
You're not wrong.
True. That's
Game Gear.
Game Boy Advanced. I mean, I'll give it to that because of the color and everything else.
I didn't even like the DS.
Really?
I didn't love it. PSP was hot garbage.
It was frustrating. It was frustrating.
It broke very easily.
Why would you still use a disc if this is going to skip like when I'm playing and crap. This is dumb.
I hear you.
That's wild. I did not know the Model 1 was compatible.
I didn't know that either.
That's
Probably because
great.
nobody had them.
Yeah,
do you remember that like
long
crazy
time.
drive to get the Wii? Like it was insane trying to get one in the beginning.
It was hard.
It was very, very difficult.
I didn't get one until like I think following Christmas.
I got one because I had a friend who knew a guy who had an extra one. And he didn't mark it up or anything like that. So
yeah, the UMDs were a problem.
Yeah.
And even the movies, like I would play movies, like that was the handle I could take with me to travel with, right? You know, because that was before we had giant iPads and crap.
Right.
So, you know, and I couldn't pull out my work laptop because that thing was a giant loud brick of heat. And yeah, so having a PSP along with my computer when I traveled was important. I had to have a computer to travel with. I had to work. But the PSP was great for the plane, you know.
Yeah.
And
well,
anyway, that's
the Switch is the best one we've ever had. So
yeah, and that's what I thought. It'll apparently be $400. Thank you, Juliet. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Okay, that's not terrible. I 500 would have been too much, I think, for a Nintendo console. Like if they were charging PlayStation 5 money, I would not have thought it was worth it.
Yeah. Fair enough. So. On that note, I just want to say that's going to be it for us today, folks. We're a little bit over 2 hours, but that's fine. And for those of you that have watched on the X product, thanks for being there. If you're watching currently on the replay of this stream, please, in the comment section down below, give us a thumbs up. And of course, leave us a comment saying #ReplayGame. And then tell us what you're playing right now. And for those of you who have been watching in person, well, leave us a comment there as well. I know you're chatting in the chat, but sometimes comments on the stream itself are helpful. We've got wonderful videos out on all of our channels. I know Marvin did a good one. I've got a couple up there. I've got one I'm working on right now about one of the That Park Place stories that was written today about a super creepoid. Holy cow. And yeah, looking forward to getting that out to you quickly. Anything you want to promote real quickly? I think you have a stream tonight, don't you?
Tonight, I'll be streaming Batman Arkham City at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come join us for a lot of a lot of fun, some entertaining gameplay, and a lot of off-color jokes, mostly at the expense of Oracle. I tell some pretty horrendous Oracle jokes when we play Batman culture. I gotta say, I'm not proud of it, but I have to do it.
Do you say bad words?
No, I mostly am just like she'll be like, "Oh, Bruce, I had to do this," and I'll be like, "Walk it off."
True
or
story.
like or like when he asked to like tell her like something bad about her father, I was like, "Are you sitting down?" Or when I was doing the Poison Ivy boss fight, I think I said something along the lines of, "Look, Ivy, we're not so different. We're both assisted by vegetables." It was
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. On that note, I just like to say thank you, everybody. You are amazing. We appreciate you. And hopefully you find something good to game with the rest of the week. Again, if you're watching this on the replay, let us know what you're playing. And if you're watching us in clip form, well, I don't know how you'd see this part of the video anyway. On that note, check out me playing the game tonight, maybe, or otherwise on Friday, probably Friday. And I hope everybody has an extraordinary day. So how do we normally sign off? Oh, as we always say, get your game on.